The Montana dawn broke cold and clean across 40 acres of pine and prairie grass. Logan Cross stood on the elevated deck of his cabin, coffee steaming in the September chill, scanning the property with the same systematic sweep he'd used clearing compounds in Yemen. 6 years removed from the teams, and his body still performed the ritual. Exits identified, blind spots catalogued, threat vectors assessed. The wilderness survival students wouldn't arrive until noon, giving him 3 quiet hours before he had to be Instructor Cross instead of just Logan. He was 42, lean and weathered from living outdoors more than in, with the kind of functional strength that came from chopping wood and hauling gear rather than gym routines. His dark hair was longer than regulation allowed, grey threading the temples, and his blue eyes held the permanent vigilance of someone who'd learned that safety was an illusion. Teaching wilderness survival had been accidental. A local outfitter had needed someone to lead a weekend course. Logan had the skills: land navigation, shelter construction, firecraft, field medicine, and discovered he didn't mind sharing them. Students came, paid, learned to read terrain, and respect nature's indifference. They called him an expert. He called it survival by another name. At his feet sat Ghost, an 8-year-old white German shepherd whose pale coat made him nearly invisible in winter snow. The dog wasn't a pet. He was Logan's partner, a former combat tracker trained to follow human scent trails across hostile terrain, locate hidden enemy positions, and alert to ambushes before they materialized. They'd met at Walter Reed during overlapping recoveries, Logan with shrapnel wounds and traumatic brain injury, Ghost with a shattered femur, and no handler. The dog's original handler, Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, had died in the same IED blast that killed Logan's entire squad in Yemen. 7 men, 7 brothers. Logan had dragged 3 from the burning vehicle before collapsing, lungs seared by superheated air, back peppered with metal fragments. He'd woken 3 days later to learn that his efforts had been futile. All 3 had died from their injuries. He'd survived. They hadn't. The mathematics of that exchange had broken something fundamental. Ghost had been in the vehicle behind the blast, deployed with his handler when secondary explosives detonated. Torres died instantly. Ghost survived with permanent nerve damage in his left rear leg, leaving him with a distinctive hitch in his gait that mirrored Logan's own limp from hip reconstruction. At Walter Reed, during Logan's 3rd month of physical therapy, a veterinary tech brought Ghost to the rehab gym. The dog, depressed and refusing food, had been slated for medical retirement or euthanasia. Logan, going through his own dark calculations about whether survival was worth it, found himself sitting on the floor beside the white shepherd. Neither moved. Neither spoke. They just existed in the same damaged space. Ghost's head eventually rested on Logan's knee. Logan's hand found the dog's neck. The therapist said it was the first time Ghost had initiated contact since Torres died. Logan adopted him a week later. They'd been inseparable for 6 years, 2 broken soldiers teaching each other that forward motion, even limping, was still progress. Logan didn't sleep well. 3 hours maximum before the dreams came. Faces of his squad, the moment he'd chosen which men to pull first, the burning smell that never quite left his nostrils. Ghost understood. The dog would wake him with a gentle nudge, grounding him back to Montana instead of Yemen. Some nights they'd walk the property until dawn, 2 sentries protecting nothing but each other. This morning was supposed to be routine. Coffee, sunrise, equipment check for the day's survival course. Then Ghost's behavior shattered the peace. The dog erupted from his resting position at 6:47 a.m. with the kind of aggressive alerting Logan hadn't witnessed in 3 years. Not the curious sniff of wildlife or the professional acknowledgement of approaching humans, but the combat alert that meant threat detected. Handler respond immediately. Ghost's hackles stood rigid along his spine, his bark sharp and commanding, body oriented toward the eastern fence line 400 yards away. This wasn't warning. This was alarm. Logan moved instantly, combat instincts overriding civilian routine. He grabbed his tactical pack, always staged near the door, and ran. Ghost didn't wait for commands. The dog was already moving, his damaged leg forgotten in the urgency, covering ground with purpose. Logan's mind catalogued details as he ran. No vehicles approaching, no sounds of engines, no visible movement in the tree line. Whatever Ghost had detected was human scent specific, likely injured based on the dog's protective alert tone rather than aggressive apprehension mode. He reached the fence line in under 2 minutes. Ghost stood rigid beside a collapsed figure, a teenage girl, 16 or 17, wearing what had once been an expensive private school uniform. Navy blazer torn at the shoulder, white blouse stained with blood and mud, pleated skirt shredded at the hem. She was barely conscious, her breathing shallow and labored. Logan dropped to his knees, tactical assessment automatic. Fractured ribs, visible deformity and bruising across her left side, defensive wounds on her forearms, fresh cuts and deep bruising indicating she'd fought back. Ligature marks on both wrists, zip tie pattern, recent. Most alarming, a bullet graze across her right shoulder, still bleeding, entrance angle suggesting she'd been shot while running. Ghost had already positioned himself beside her, switching from alert to protection mode. The dog's body provided windbreak and warmth, his presence calm and reassuring. Despite the violence evident on her body, Logan performed field medicine with the precision drilled into every seal, pressure dressing on the bullet wound, sterile gauze from his pack, elastic wrap to secure it. He checked her pupils. Responsive but sluggish. Possible concussion. Spinal precautions. He stabilized her neck before attempting to move her. Checked for exit wound. None. The bullet had carved a channel across the shoulder muscle without penetrating. Painful, bleeding, but survivable with proper treatment. Her eyes fluttered open, green, terrified, searching for threats. When she saw Logan, she flinched. When she saw Ghost, something in her face softened. Dogs represented safety in a way humans couldn't. Logan kept his voice low, non-threatening. "I'm Logan, former Navy SEAL, wilderness instructor. You're safe. I've got you." He gestured to Ghost. "This is Ghost. He found you. Can you tell me your name?" Her lips moved, voice barely audible, raw from screaming or crying or both. "Emma. Emma Hartwell." "Emma, can you tell me what happened? Who hurt you?" She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength, her eyes focusing with desperate urgency. 2 words, whispered but clear. "He's coming." Ghost's ears rotated toward the access road, the private dirt track that connected Logan's property to the state highway 2 miles away. Logan heard it too. Multiple vehicles, engines pushing hard, moving fast. Not local traffic. This was coordinated pursuit. Logan's tactical mind shifted into operational mode. Distance to vehicles, approximately 1 mile, closing. Time to cabin, 3 minutes at sprint. Time to secure location, 2 minutes. Total window, 5 minutes before contact. "Emma, I'm going to carry you. It's going to hurt, but we need to move now. He lifted her in a fireman's carry, distributing weight to minimize pressure on her ribs. She gasped, but didn't cry out. Ghost led the way, moving at speed despite his limp, checking back every few yards to ensure his pack was following. Logan's cabin wasn't just a home. It was a fortified position. After 6 years of nightmares about being trapped, he'd built it with overlapping fields of fire, reinforced doors, security cameras covering all approaches, and an interior safe room with independent communication. His 40 acres provided natural defensive terrain, dense tree coverage, elevated positions, multiple escape routes. They reached the cabin as vehicle sounds grew louder. Logan carried Emma inside, Ghost securing the entrance behind them. He lowered her onto the couch, grabbed his tablet showing security feeds, and watched 3 black SUVs pull onto his property. Emma saw the screen, saw the vehicles, and her entire body began shaking. Not cold, not shock. Recognition. "That's them," she whispered. "That's Crane." Logan looked at the teenage girl bleeding on his couch, at Ghost positioned protectively beside her, at the armed men emerging from vehicles on his property. The operator in him assessed odds, calculated angles, planned responses. The survivor in him recognized the choice presenting itself, the same impossible choice he'd faced in Yemen. Protect himself or protect someone else. This time, he knew exactly what he'd do. He'd already lost 7 brothers to violence. He wasn't losing this girl. Logan moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency, every action serving multiple purposes. He positioned Emma in the interior safe room, reinforced walls, independent power, satellite phone, while simultaneously monitoring security feeds and calculating defensive options. Ghost remained with Emma, the dog's calm presence reducing her visible panic to manageable fear. "Emma," Logan said, his voice steady and low, "I need you to tell me everything. Fast. Who's hunting you and why?" Her words tumbled out in fragmented urgency, pain and terror making her story jagged but clear. Ashford Academy, an elite boarding school for children of wealthy families. She'd been in the library after hours, researching colleges, when she accidentally accessed a restricted computer, a teacher's workstation left unlocked. The files she'd seen weren't lesson plans. They were detailed records of academic fraud, SAT scores purchased for $75,000, college admissions guaranteed for $250,000, forged transcripts, fabricated extracurriculars, letters of recommendation written by people who'd never met the students. She'd tried to close the files, tried to leave quietly. But Mr. Vincent Crane, the school's head of security disguised as a teacher, had been watching the library's internal cameras. He'd appeared with 3 students, except they moved like soldiers, not teenagers. When she'd tried to run, they'd cornered her. Crane's voice had been calm, almost apologetic. "Emma, you've seen something you shouldn't have. We can't let you leave." She'd fought. Defensive wounds on her arms proved it. But 4 against 1, trained men against a teenage girl, she'd lost. They'd zip-tied her wrists, dragged her to a maintenance building, and Crane had made a phone call. Emma heard only fragments. "The prosecutor's daughter. Yes, she knows. I'll handle it." Her father, federal prosecutor James Hartwell, currently investigating education fraud involving multiple universities. This wasn't random violence. This was a message designed to intimidate him into backing off. Emma had escaped when Crane's phone rang again, distracting him long enough for her to kick out a basement window. She'd run, still zip-tied, through 2 miles of forest, found a maintenance truck with keys in the ignition, drove until the truck crashed on a washout road, ran another 2 miles before collapsing at Logan's fence. The bullet wound had come when Crane realized she'd escaped. He'd fired as she disappeared into the trees. Ghost had found her 15 minutes later. Logan processed the information with tactical clarity. Vincent Crane, former Army Ranger with dishonorable discharge for assault. Logan could verify that through military databases. Ashford Academy, prestigious institution with deep pockets and deeper connections. Dr. Gerald Ashford, headmaster running the operation from the top. This wasn't opportunistic crime. This was organized, systematic fraud with $18 million in stakes over 4 years. The security feeds showed the 3 SUVs parked in formation, 6 men emerging. 5 wore tactical gear poorly concealed under civilian jackets. The 6th was Vincent Crane, 38 years old, physically fit, moving with the precision of someone who'd maintained his military training. He carried himself with the false confidence of a predator hunting what he thought was prey. Logan made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. First, James Hartwell. Mr. Hartwell, my name is Logan Cross, former Navy SEAL. Your daughter Emma is here, injured but alive. Vincent Crane is on my property right now to finish what he started. I need you to mobilize the FBI immediately. Send the Public Corruption Unit. I'll keep her safe, but I need federal authority here within the hour. Hartwell's voice shook but held. Done. Keep her alive. Please. Second, his former commander, now working DOJ coordination. Sir, it's Cross. Need a favor. FBI authorization, corruption investigation, civilian threat situation in Montana. He provided coordinates, case summary, and the request that would matter most. I need immunity for defensive actions. The response came back in 30 seconds. You're covered. Protect the witness. Third, his phone's recording app, streaming to cloud backup. Everything that happened next would be documented. Crane knocked on the cabin door at 7:23 a.m. Polite, professional, the kind of knock that said, I'm reasonable. Let's talk. Logan opened it 6 inches, body-blocking entry. Ghost visible behind him in a sitting alert position. Good morning, Crane said, smiling with practiced warmth. I'm Vincent Crane, head of security at Ashford Academy. We're looking for one of our students, Emma Hartwell. She had a mental health episode, attacked staff, and ran away. We're concerned for her safety. Have you seen her? Logan's expression remained neutral. No. Crane's smile tightened. Sir, we have a medical professional with us. Proper documentation for emergency psychiatric hold. We just want to help her. If she's here, she's not. One of Crane's men shifted, hand moving toward his concealed weapon. Ghost's growl was low, professional, the sound of a working dog identifying threat. Crane glanced at the white shepherd dismissively. That's just a pet, right? Looks old. Probably harmless. It was the miscalculation that would cost him everything. Crane stepped forward, pushing the door, reaching past Logan toward the interior. Listen, we're coming in. You can cooperate or we'll handle this. Logan's switch flipped. The movement was surgical. Logan trapped Crane's extended arm, applying a joint lock that produced an audible crack as the wrist hyper-extended. Crane dropped, gasping. Logan disarmed the nearest man with a nerve strike to the brachial plexus, rendering his arm temporarily paralyzed and forcing him to release the concealed pistol. Ghost launched at the third man who'd drawn a weapon, controlled, professional apprehension, bite to the forearm, the dog's training evident in the precision that disarmed without killing. 43 seconds, 6 men neutralized. Logan stood over Crane, the former ranger's own pistol now in Logan's hand, pointed at the ground but ready. His voice was ice calm, the tone of an operator delivering a situation report. Your operational security is amateur. You're on private property without a warrant, carrying concealed weapons without Montana reciprocity permits, and attempting kidnapping of a federal witness. I've recorded everything. FBI Public Corruption Unit is 3 minutes out. I can hear the helicopters. Your encrypted phone just betrayed every message you sent to Dr. Ashford, every payment you received, every family you defrauded. Your time is over. Crane, wrist broken, face pressed against Logan's porch, tried the soldier-to-soldier appeal. Cross, you know what it's like after service. No support, no jobs, no purpose. We do what we must to survive. You understand? Logan's response was absolute zero. We survive by protecting people. You prey on them. We are not the same. The FBI helicopters arrived at 7:28 a.m. 12 agents, 4 vehicles, full tactical response. Special Agent Reeves took command, reading Crane his rights while evidence teams photographed everything. Crane's phone, encrypted but not destroyed, became the key that unlocked the entire conspiracy. Emma emerged from the safe room, Ghost at her side, and collapsed into her father's arms. James Hartwell held his daughter, thanked Logan with words that couldn't capture the magnitude, and promised anything in gratitude. Logan asked for nothing, but Emma would ask for something else entirely. The FBI raid on Ashford Academy unfolded like a military operation, systematic, thorough, devastating to the criminal enterprise it targeted. 47 agents executed search warrants simultaneously across 8 locations: the academy itself, Dr. Gerald Ashford's estate, Vincent Crane's apartment, 3 bank branches, and 2 storage facilities containing physical evidence Ashford had kept as insurance against his accomplices. What they found exceeded even the prosecutor's expectations. Dr. Ashford, a man whose arrogance had convinced him he was untouchable, had maintained meticulous records, spreadsheets tracking 43 families who'd paid for guaranteed admissions, correspondence with university admissions officers who'd been bribed, forged documents with digital timestamps showing exactly when they'd been created, financial records revealing $18 million funneled through shell corporations and offshore accounts. Vincent Crane and his 4 accomplices faced federal charges, including attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and witness intimidation. The evidence was overwhelming. Logan's recording, Emma's testimony, Crane's own encrypted messages, and the testimony of other students who'd been threatened into silence. 17 legitimate students had been denied university admissions to make room for Ashford's paying clients. Their families filed civil suits exceeding $50 million against the academy, Ashford personally, and the universities that had participated. The academy's board of trustees, facing complete institutional collapse, voted to close the school permanently. Emma's testimony was protected under federal witness security protocols. She spent 3 weeks in protective custody, giving depositions, identifying accomplices, and slowly processing the trauma of being hunted. Her father, James Hartwell, personally led the prosecution team, professional distance abandoned in favor of paternal fury, channeled into legal precision. But Emma requested something that surprised everyone. 6 weeks after the attack, she appeared at Logan's property unannounced. James drove her, staying in the truck, while Emma walked to the cabin, where Ghost immediately recognized her and approached with tail wagging. The dog had bonded with her during those critical hours when she'd been most vulnerable. Logan opened the door, surprised, but not alarmed. "Emma, how are you?" "Healing," she said. "Body's fine. Mind's working on it. But I need to ask you something." They sat on the porch, Ghost between them, while Emma explained. She didn't want to be someone who got lucky. She didn't want to spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, flinching at sudden movements, feeling helpless. She wanted to learn what Ghost knew: how to track, how to read terrain, how to survive. She wanted Logan to teach her what the military had taught him: not to become a soldier, but to become someone who fights back. "I teach wilderness survival to adults," Logan said carefully. "Navigation, shelter, firecraft, not combat. I don't want combat training. I want confidence training. I want to walk into the woods and know I can walk out. I want to track a deer and understand how hunters think. I want to build a fire in rain and know I won't freeze. I want to be capable." Logan studied her. This 16-year-old girl who'd survived brutal violence, escaped armed pursuit, and crawled 2 miles through forest rather than surrender. She wasn't asking to be coddled. She was asking to be trained. "Your father know about this?" Emma nodded toward the truck where James watched. "He does now. He said if you agree, he trusts your judgment." Logan looked at Ghost, who'd positioned himself beside Emma with the same protective instinct he'd shown since finding her. Looked at the 40 acres that had been his isolation cell for 6 years. Looked at his own hands, scarred from survival work and military service, capable of harm and healing both. 2 conditions, he finally said. 1. You follow instructions exactly. In wilderness survival, mistakes kill. 2. The moment you want to stop, we stop. This is about empowerment, not endurance. Emma extended her hand. Deal. Over the following months, Emma became Logan's first long-term student. She drove from her new school, a public institution where merit mattered more than money, to Logan's property every weekend. She learned land navigation using map and compass, reading topography, and understanding how terrain shaped movement. She learned shelter construction, firecraft in wet conditions, water purification, and edible plant identification. She learned to track animals with Ghost's help, the dog demonstrating trailing techniques, while Emma learned to read disturbed vegetation, scat, and behavioral patterns. But more than skills, she learned confidence. The first time she built a fire from friction, spinning a hardwood spindle against a softwood board until ember formed, she cried. Not from frustration, but from the realization that she'd created something vital from nothing, that she was capable. Logan discovered that teaching her helped quiet his own nightmares. Protecting one person gave him purpose where he couldn't save 7. Each weekend she arrived, he felt less like a broken soldier hiding in the wilderness, and more like someone whose skills still mattered. Ghost thrived too. The dog's role evolved from combat tracker to therapy partner to training assistant, his protective instinct finding expression in guiding rather than guarding. A year after Emma's attack, she received college acceptance letters. 4 schools, all legitimate admissions based on her academic performance, and a college essay about survival that admissions officers called transformative. She chose criminal justice, planning to become a prosecutor like her father. The night before she left for university, Emma and Logan sat by the fire pit behind his cabin, Ghost resting between them. She handed Logan a challenge coin, something she'd had custom made. One side showed Ghost's profile in relief, the white shepherd's face captured in silver. The other side bore a single word: Protector. "You saved my life," Emma said quietly, "but you also showed me how to save myself. That's worth more than rescue. That's freedom." Logan turned the coin over in his hands, feeling the weight of it. "You did the hard part. You survived. You chose to keep surviving. That's all you." "We both did the hard part," Emma corrected. "You survived Yemen. You chose to keep surviving. And then you helped me do the same. That's what protectors do. They teach others to protect themselves." She hugged him goodbye, hugged Ghost longer, and drove away toward a future she'd reclaimed. Logan stood at the eastern fence line where Ghost had first found her, the place where everything had changed. The dog leaned against his leg, not alerting to threat, but simply present, grounding him in the moment. The September morning was quiet, pine scent heavy in the air, birds calling from distant tree lines. For the first time in 6 years, Logan slept through the night. No dreams of burning vehicles or dying brothers. Instead, he dreamed of Emma's graduation, Ghost wearing a service vest, and 40 acres that no longer felt like isolation, but like home base, sanctuary for the next person who needed it. The broken soldier found redemption, not by saving everyone, but by saving one person who refused to stay broken. And somewhere in the Montana wilderness, a white German shepherd with a limp and a former Navy SEAL with matching scars stood ready for whoever might need them next. The mission hadn't ended. It had just evolved into something better, teaching survival instead of merely surviving.